Wonderful to see all of your bright faces. And I was thinking if we could get Goer to read that email. I know that you folks have read it, but some people who get on don't have the benefit of seeing the email in advance.
Sure, Jeff.
Yeah.
Dear folks of Baba, in our next chapter entitled The Fruits of Our Labor in Effort and Grace, beginning on page 105, Darwin turns to the subject of wholeness. He would say, whenever we are trying to live from love in the moment, we are moving toward wholeness. Whenever we remember Baba in any way, shape, or form, we are focusing on the embodiment of wholeness itself. When we live with any other motive, when we want something just for ourselves, we find ourselves divided. Feeling incomplete, we try to acquire something in the world that we think is missing, something we need to be complete. This is the poignant state of most human beings. We are denying our own inherent completeness, our birthright to be whole, which can only come through trying to be loving in the present for Baba's sake. Darwin, as well as the mandali around Baba, were embodiments of this truth. Here is a novel way of thinking about love. I once asked Darwin his opinion on the subject of free will and predestination. He countered, "What do you think?" Caught off guard, I awkwardly gave him various opinions, and the one he signed off on was spontaneous predestination. What does this mean, you might ask? As Baba has said, love was here before creation. That is, it predates creation. That love is within each of us, and we are actually free to express this love in the world, but our ego has a way of convincing us that certain conditions have to be met before there is a release of love. Creation, on the other hand, is predestined, subject to change only by divine grace. On our own, we cannot change creation. It is like a black and white movie, and with our love, through Baba's grace, we are always free to add the colors to this film of creation. We are free to enliven and make meaningful every situation in which we find ourselves. The more we express love in the present, the freer we become. How does this relate to our being whole? When our objective is to give love to creation rather than getting something from it, we are essentially detaching ourselves from the entire drama of life. There is nothing in the world we really want except what would satisfy our needs, like food, shelter, and the give and take of love. It is our love given by Baba that leads us to the experience of wholeness, a love that is unconditional with no strings attached. Erich and Dr. Kenmore, two of Baba's mandali, were once taking a walk at Mirazad, and their conversation turned to the subject of wholeness. Erich maintained that in being around Baba, the mandali were given the experience of wholeness. When trying to understand what Erich meant by wholeness, the doctor asked Erich, what if a perfect master came by and offered him God realization? Would he take it? Erich said no. What experience must Erich be having that he was not attracted even to realization, the goal of all life? Surely not bliss or infinite power and knowledge. Here is an exchange that Dan Ladinsky once had with Erich, which tells us something essential about the experience of wholeness. Dan said to Erich, "You mandali take a nip now and then." "What do you mean by that, Danny?" Erich asked. "You take a shot of his bliss." Erich replied, "What makes you say that?" "I see it in the eyes of the mandali sometimes." Erich suddenly became very serious. "Brother, We are the chalices that hold the beloved's wine. Others may come and help themselves, but for us, we never take a drop. Can you imagine a wholeness that needs nothing else, not even a single sip? Why? Because Erich's cup was already filled with love to the brim, being continuously replenished by Baba. Erich and all of the mandali shared this wholeness of joyfully offering the fullness of themselves again and again to all of us. In over our heads in Baba's love, Jeff.
I hope that made sense. That first line came to me in about 3 in the morning, something like, oh, I can't even remember what the line is. But anyway, let's go on with chapter on the fruits of our labor, which is on page 105. Let's see if we can get Patty. You up for reading?
Sure, I'm happy to.
And go. That the first part is really short, so read all the way through, even through.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to open it up a little bit. All right. The fruits of our labor. In non-duality, there is freedom from limitation, as well as the knowledge and appreciation of things as they are. Mayor Baba. When we can stand back and see life as a pack of gross level earth games, we will decide to rise above it into a state of perception rather than continue to play those games. We realize that we can remain free instead of dwelling on gross level games. Withdraw your need for input from Maya and put all your focus on Mayor Baba. He is more eager for this than we are. Surrender the limited in favor of the unlimited, as Baba says. Give the false to him and upgrade to the truth. Intensify your faith and conviction. Sow the seeds of liberation. The prerequisite for lasting happiness. Hope and disappointment are two sides of the same coin. Baba stresses the importance of detachment based on understanding, rather than detachment that is merely a reaction to the experiences of the opposites. He says, the steadiness and equanimity that remain unaffected by any opposites is possible only through complete detachment, which is an essential condition of lasting and true happiness. The individual who has complete detachment is not at the mercy of the opposites of experience, and being free from the thraldom of all desires, he no longer creates his own suffering. This means that a lasting internal detachment is a prerequisite for lasting happiness. Your consciousness can become free to turn away from the gross level and to turn towards the spiritual, towards the reality within. Become a detached witness. Do not make the ego self out to be an obstacle. You want me to continue, Jeff? Or,
No, that's stop there. Yeah.
okay, great.
Anything to say to that? At some point, it would be nice to hear what experiences you have in your life, what situations give you a feeling of wholeness, either inner or outer experiences, and what things take away from that feeling of completeness and wholeness within yourself. So keep that in mind. Of course, you know, Darwin talks about the wanting machine, and the wanting machine is always i- to to worship the future and rather than the present. So we'll get into that. Um, anyone have anything? Oh, yeah, yeah,
I do.
yeah, yeah.
I have a question. How can you be detached and still be passionate and juicy and excited and spontaneous and engaged in life in a joyful way?
Very good question, and it is possible. Anyone want to say something to that?
Took the words right out of my mouth, Marta. Great question.
Yeah, right out of you. Oh, we got a couple of hands there. Yeah.
Ben?
Yes, I'm reading the last part of volume 2 of The Joyous Path by Heather. And she has some incredible, just absolutely flat out incredible things to say about money and to that question. And the main question is the main point that she makes, and I only remember it because I've just read it in the past few days, is she juxtaposes Mani's personality in the most accurate and beautiful way. She spends a lot of time developing Mani's joyfulness and talking about that. But at the same exact time, she doesn't spend as much time in the passages I'm talking about, which are all about page 790 or so. It's toward the end. So she juxtaposes this one person, Mani, who has both qualities active. And I wouldn't go any further than that, except to say that if you read those passages, you'll see that they provide us with a nice answer to the question that Marta asked. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's page 7 something or other in the
Yeah.
first.
90.
I'll tell you what, Jeff, while the others are speaking, I'll look it up and give you a page number in a moment.
Good.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Marian?
Hi. I want to add something. I'm writing about this in a book, so I can't take the long version. What I've learned about the word detachment is that what the experience I've had, the only in this life, this incarnation, the only those souls that were my parents in this life, those aspects that were incarnated, I had the experience because I did all the study and all the work of, like Baba said, the psychological is spiritual too. So I did all the work. How come I chose them? It chose me. What were they? What did they show me about myself? So they always, the images of my parents from my childhood would get imposed on my relationship with God. You know, the God image, I'd call it the God image. I'd have to look at how, even with Baba, I would superimpose those old patterns from my childhood. I cleared all of those through a lot of work, a lot of work. Then one day there came on me the experience, and I won't say what it was like because it was not in this dimension, of total detachment from those two souls, that no more karma with them. And I experienced an unconditional love that I've never experienced before in my life, except when Baba grabbed me in a white light experience. But than that, it came. So for me, the benefit was doing all that work, the psychological and the spiritual, of releasing anyone that I have as a source for me. I have an attachment to. It means having all the tools, to dissolve that. But that unconditional love, so that even though I don't feel it every day, I know it's there. And I have that ability to go through that with anyone I have as my source. And I've got children, grandchildren, all kinds of attachments. But that will never leave me, that I had that experience of such unconditional love like I've never known. except when Baba grabbed me. So I'll just say that. I'll end it with that.
And but that included an appreciation for these people in your life without being attached to them.
Yes, it was pure love that I experienced with him as I let go of them. As a karmic, on the soul level, we're all one. But
Yeah.
on the karmic level, they had, they manifested beings that became my parents, and we had karma together. That is ended. There is no more karma with that soul. There's no more. And so the unconditional love, where there were no expectations again, there was no attachment to them. And the unconditional love I experienced for them, not as it's beyond my words. It's beyond my words. I have never experienced before that kind of unconditional love while being a human like this, except when Baba grabbed me in a white light experience. So all I know is I don't go around feeling that all day, but I know it's there. When you have an awakening, it's there, even if you're not experiencing it emotionally every day. And it wasn't an emotion. It was a knowing and a releasing. And I thought, wow, it means unconditional love, where there's no attachment, no expectations. It's like it's just beyond explanation. Yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of give that out as little candies. We can just aside from that. Okay, let's go on. Beautiful.
Radha.
Uh-oh. We can't hear you, Radha, but
You're on mute.
we're able to read your lips now after 3 years of Zoom.
We can go on. A lot of what I was going to say was so similar to what Marian said, but I did have this beautiful experience of forgiveness and experiencing unconditional love after experiencing a lot of pain of being misunderstood. And I find that trying to practice that provisional ego, and I really was asking Baba, when I go in to talk with someone that's really hurt me, I want to feel love for them. I want to see you in them. And when we practice that provisional love, I think it frees us up to be more spontaneous, to be more present, to see Baba in, what's right in front of us. And I felt such peace. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. Jai Baba.
Here's been my method over the years. I mean, it's just one of various. I've always felt that being wholehearted about what I do and wholehearted in my relationships, actually there's a certain detachment. You think it's just the opposite. To give yourself to something, because that ability to give yourself wholeheartedly to things, if the object is taken away, you can move it to someone else or to some other situation. So I've found, I'm just saying for myself, to be more wholehearted about things. There's an inborn inherent detachment in wholeheartedness. And Baba himself says that. I mean, but there are other methods of detaching as well. But that's the thing that's worked for me. We should ask Mrs. Claus what she thinks. No. Okay. I mean, she loses her husband, every year.
Is it Mrs. Tina Claus? Yeah, she is.
Yeah. Okay.
Ben.
Ben, do you have, Ben has his hand up for the pages. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Volume 2 of Joyous Path is an absolute masterpiece. I'm actually trying to write a book myself modeled on the way Heather wrote this book. It's called The Joyless Path. Just a joke. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you, whoever gave me that laugh.
That's my book. That's my book. Okay.
Who said that?
Richard.
I'm going to say I was wrong on the 700s. It's actually the 800s. And I'm just going to say between make it simple, 850 and 900, those
Okay.
pages. And as I was thumbing through, I found this one place where, Marta, would you just, what I'm going to show you a couple of photographs right now to answer your question, but could you rephrase it so we can, when we look at these photographs, we can remember the question? Do you mind?
Well, I just was, how do you have detachment and have any kind of spontaneity or juiciness or passion or excitement about doing something?
Okay. So the first part of your question was about detachment. And how do you have that while being engaged?
Yes, that's it. By being engaged, that's
Right.
easier. Yeah.
This is Monty's photograph right here.
Even closer if you can. And two, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's money, all right.
But there it says right next to that picture. That's photographs you're talking with Heather is how I was with Baba. Okay. Now here's the other part of Marta's question. Her hands reaching out.
Yeah.
And
Is that-
so did you all get that? Did you get the point? When it was time to play with children with toys, because she had a toy, you know, there in the passageway there, you know, right there at the top of the stairs, and she, or maybe in the other building across from Baba's room, you know, that where she had her little outdoor desk.
Yeah.
She would have toys, and then she would play with the toys with the kids. And so, and then her cupboard. If you don't know about her cupboard, just again read pages 850 to 900 in this book, Joyous Path, Volume 2, and you'll see some things that really answer your question well, Marta. Now, just one more point that as I was thumbing through here, and a kind of peripheral point is that we all know that this is kind of a sidebar real quick, that we all know that Mara's birthday is celebrated on the 22nd, and the 15th is Monty's birthday. But here's a little known fact. With the time zones, Jane Haynes' birthday is on the same day as Monty's, on the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Jane passed in 96, I think. I can't remember, something like that. That's just a little sidebar. And then there's also a point made in this book, in these extremely rich 50 pages, how Jane connected money and Saint Teresa, and found a passage about Saint Teresa that she read it to Monty, that Jane had read in a book. Can I just read a little of it? Because when you're talking about Saint Teresa, you're talking about Monty in a very interesting way. So I'll just go ahead and read that. If does that go okay if I do that? Okay, just a beautiful passage. Now again, this was a book about Saint Teresa describing the saint. But of course, Heather puts it in here because it also sounds like Monty. So here it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Marta, that'll help give you some more insight into this question. Ready? Saint Teresa was a mystic, that is, one who knows God by experience. She made mysticism into music, poetry, and an ecstatic dance with the beloved, but not without walking the path of suffering, like every genius. She was stunning to look at, outgoing, cheerful, and charming. Everyone adored her. She was a scintillating conversationalist. People of all walks of life listened to her, men, women, bishops, mule drivers, and the king himself. This really sounds like Monty. She enjoyed both talking, and silence. She enjoyed being alone and having a good time. She loved to laugh and laughed often. When she did, everyone around her laughed. She liked perfume, jewelry, chivalry, and the color orange. Hear the musical sounds of her voice. Imagine sitting down with her for a good visit, basking in her sweet embrace. Again, this is written by somebody who probably didn't even know who Money was. Imagine sitting down with her for a good visit, basking in her sweet embrace, her gaiety, and the depth of her wisdom. For she was a woman of substance as well as charm. Imagine her at a party or at prayer, laughing over a lizard that crawled up her arm and landed in the face of her friend. But it just goes on, and I'll stop there. But the beautiful comparison, and Marta, this is to your point, and I'll stop talking. But Marta, there's a few places there in Marazad where Mani would go to her cupboard, and everybody would know that Mani's at her cupboard because it had little Baba photographs and things, very special things that Baba gave her that she put in this one cupboard. And she would go there and open the cupboard and just stand there, and everybody around Goher, all the rest of them knew, don't talk to Mani right now. This is not the time to talk to Mani. She's at the cupboard. They said, oh, she's at the cupboard. But so Marta, that would be the ability that Mani had to just go, what she called speed bumps. Have you all heard that term, speed bump?
Yeah.
She would say it was like a time during the day. I won't try to find the passage, but it was an important word that Mani used a lot. And it would be a time when she would just stop her day and reflect on Baba. It was kind of like, okay, that's it. I'm stopping and I'm going to think about Baba for a minute or two or whatever like that. She wouldn't go into a deep meditation, but she did. It directly answers your question, Marta, because it's how do you do that? Well, you take those little minutes out of the day and you try to think about them as much as you can, and then something comes in to draw your attention away. And she, what I got out of those 50 pages was one page in there where she talked about how she would not be pulled away from her communion with Baba in these little speed bump moments when she would stop everything to do. But then the next, 3 minutes later, she's telling somebody to come back into her office and have a 3-hour discussion with them about their lives and reaching out. But then she would always go back, kind of back and forth, like an accordion.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. She's a good example. That was a good example,
Good
Mani.
example.
Thank you.
And-
Thank you, Ben.
and
I will read
Baba-
that.
Baba said that Kitty Davy had been Saint Teresa of Avila, and she was really fun to be with and very engaged in all levels of life. Okay, so let's go on to the next, a view from the level of the spirit. Tony.
The view from the level of the spirit. To try to apprehend the spirit with the mind is futile because it is much too fine. But if one has enough inner detachment from the world, one can become aware of the spirit and become aware that one is living at the level of the spirit. Mayor Baba made it possible for us to be conscious of different levels of the spirit when we were with him. For example, when I was with Baba on a daily basis in 1952 in Scarsdale, New York, he put me into a state of inner detached perception. I found myself floating free, sort of detached from the physical and not encumbered by anything gross, yet aware of everything going on and able to function very adequately and helpfully. I was experiencing a sense of complete inner detachment. It was as if an instrument that was unnecessary had been taken out of a mechanism. This is one of the problems with our spiritual unfoldment. We think we need our minds. We think we need our desires. We think we need all these things. As we gradually let go of them, we find that there is a clearing that takes place within our consciousness, and we can go to the level of detached perception. The heart quality keeps it from becoming mental transcendentalism. The degree of our awareness of the spirit when we were with Baba would vary from time to time. On several occasions, I have been with Baba when it seemed as though everyone around him were magically transported to a different realm. We would find ourselves swimming in a sea of love, of light, and indescribable beauty. And to some extent, we would experience what Mayor Baba calls objectless awareness. Apparently, from what Baba says, we are so attached to objects that we identify ourselves with these objects. But the ultimate realization is when we get free of objects and experience objectless awareness. This apparent loss of everything we had previously taken to be meaningful is compensated by divine bliss.
Thank you. Anything to say to that?
Rich. Rich.
Yes. When Tony was reading, something popped into my mind. I love this paragraph. The first sentence is really magnificent because Darwin's putting his finger right on it for all of us people moving on the path. So the thing that came to me is a concept that Baba repeats in several different places. It's Chaitanya. I think it's Chaitanya. Is that how you pronounce it? Chaitanya. And that's what I associate with it is the eating of creation. You just have an appetite. You know, I need another pair of shoes. I've got to go to the store and look at those beautiful things and eat them up, you know, or I need a new album from, you know, AC/DC, you know, that's really, but this Chaitanya never stops until you begin to see it as a predicament. I think that's, and it's what Darwin is saying here is that as you realize that predicament is an entrapment, you know, an entrapment, then suddenly you sort of are engaging in a level of spiritual awareness that the mind cannot access. And I've been experiencing some of that, but for the most part, I find myself just a little bubble floating along this ocean of trouble, you know, and once in a while, you know, that's why I'm here. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else to say? I mean, the level of the spirit, I mean, it's funny, when we first started out on the first meeting when we started out with this time through the book, that there is that phrase, the level of the spirit, which it's an inner place, you might say, and that's more timeless and spaceless, you might say. Looking from there at this world, it's a different place to view it. But you have to kind of, as Darwin says, you have to think of your personality self as a storefront rather than who you are. You have to kind of get behind the personality self and view things. But go ahead.
Tony.
Yeah. So the line about objectless awareness and detachment from objects, and we focus on objects. And at least for me lately, since say August of this year, I've been really conscious of my focus on my body, the object, the closest object. And I've had a health thing. There's a number of facets, but mainly it's a half-inch diameter kidney stone. And it's been frustrating to me that I have very often been focused much more on the pain than on Baba. and there are times when I have detachment from it, and then my kidney doesn't hurt. It's the strangest damn thing. But The other piece of that, and this can be really torturous for maybe, especially in the middle of the night for a couple of hours, it'll be just, one doctor I spoke to said he was treating a woman who had had 3 children and she was dealing with kidney stones. And she said this was worse than childbirth. And I had actually had that thought, but wouldn't have dared to say it to anyone. But the other piece of that is of the focus on the object that is the body. I'm 71. Every time I turn around, there's somebody I know who has become terminally ill or is suffering immensely or just suddenly departs. And the attachment, again, it's like Baba is kind of weaning me to get the idea of being as if you're willing to let go of everything, including your family, your closest, the ones that you're closest to, that I am very attached to. And to keep that, but it's a love attachment. But to keep that love attachment and at the same time be prepared if Baba snaps his fingers that, okay, I'm departing now. And like, so I've got a procedure coming up on Thursday to finally laser out this kidney, and it's a little invasive. And so Baba is showing me stories on TV of, or in the news, of someone who's 71 years old, died, a very famous person, died unexpectedly in the middle of a completely routine procedure. You know. So I'm aware of those two facets of seeking to wean me off of all that connects to the attachment to being in this body. I'm not concerned about, I know some past life, I'm not that person anymore. I want to remember being me, so to get some detachment from that and to be able to really sink into Baba's presence in the midst of a lot of pain. And the last thing I guess I would say with that comes to mind, I was at the airport. I was one of those who was chosen to be at the airport, LaGuardia Airport, when Fred Winterfeld was coming to New York Hospital, I think it was, through LaGuardia. And we met him at the airport. They were in, I think, a private plane, and went with him to the hospital. And he was in so much, he died the next day. He was in so much pain. And the whole time he was saying, Baba, 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 total focus. But if anybody asked him a question, he would stop. And usually it was the nurse. So how was your trip, Mr. Winterfeld? Well, we got on here and it was a little bumpy, but, and she'd go, okay, go, but be quiet, be calm. Don't stress yourself. And then she'd ask him another question and he would stop, Bob, he would stop. He would answer her question. And the third time, when she said, no, rest, don't speak so much. He said, if you don't want me to talk so much, stop asking me so many questions. and so it was like keeping a sense of humor while being in really intense pain and taking Baba's name, but willing to come out for someone who was needing something from him. So that just popped into mind now. I don't know how well I'm doing with this particular class, but I'm sure Bob will bring me through it the way he wants me to.
Thank you, Tony. I was there when Mera passed on in India. It was in May, so there were very few people there. And, I saw how the women mandali took this, and they were totally devastated at the heart level. But there was behind that, they were whatever. They were steady and firm. But they gave their whole heart to their life with Mara, and of course you and Bob, of course, and you run the risk of getting profoundly hurt. But one part of them didn't get touched, and I remember after Mara had been laid in the grave and the people had dispersed. I was going up to the tomb, and I saw this flash of how I would explain the women mandali's response. I don't know if you've ever seen when you have a volcano in a mountain like Mount St. Helens, all the trees are leveled, but the mountain and the snow above remains untouched. And I just saw that their hearts were completely devastated, but at the soul level, they were intact. So there was not the fear. They did not protect their hearts. They took the pain and suffering of that, but at the same time, that one part of them was not submerged, you might say. Anyway, let's go repudiating our completeness. Deneen, are you still cognizant?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
All right, let's see. So where are we here? Objectless awareness.
This is repudiating our completeness.
Okay, I got it. Got it. We have become deeply habituated to wanting things in both the outer and inner worlds because of a deep inner sense of incompleteness. Wanting is an unconscious statement that says, I want because I do not have. As it turns out, this is a refutation of the truth of our own eternal being. We are indeed already complete, but we are not aware of this all-important fact. Through His grace, Mayor Baba restores our wholeness. He does this by taking away our delusive sense of incompleteness, by occasionally lifting the many-layered veil within so that we experience our own completeness. In order to augment this lifting of the veil within, He asks us to stop wanting, knowing that when we consciously stop wanting, it becomes possible for us to discern what we already have. Sometimes, out of compassion for us in our struggles, purely out of His own sweet grace, reveals to us that He is indeed our divine shepherd, and that we are completely in His most loving care, forever safe within the timeless security of His eternal being. One time, Baba gave me an experience of this.
Okay. This is, Darwin, of course, talks about the wanting machine. And as long as wanting is always connected to the future. So we've already left the present. And the goal is in the present, it's not in the future. But so stopping the wanting machine is a lot of this book is about how the wanting machine creeps in there and drives us. Yeah, but anyone want to say anything about reputing our completeness? I mean, what experience, what situations, just in taking your life and your day-to-day experiences, where do you find yourself most complete? What activity, what preoccupation, what, whether with people, what gives you that feeling of completeness? Anybody feel like venturing, sharing that?
I could.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, briefly, and I've talked about this before. I mean, when I get up in the morning before my day actually starts, and I sit down and I look at Baba's picture and I read Baba's words, there is an openness and a calmness that disappears almost instantly as soon as as soon as the wanting machine starts. Oh, you've got to do this. Oh, you've got, and you're right, Jeff. It's always attached to the future. It's something It might be the future only 20 minutes off. It might be the future of tomorrow, but whatever it is, it's always something that the mind is saying, oh, you've got to remember this. Oh, what about this? You better write this down. Otherwise, you foolish old man, you'll forget it. So it's like, oh, come on, But in those moments when that's not happening, it's such a gift from Baba. And I mean, I wish I could make it happen, but I can't seem to do that. Although repeating Baba's name does help, especially when things really try to take over instead of letting me just kind of get on with them. So, okay, that's
Yeah. But yeah, you're saying in a way, when you're just being rather than doing, you get more of the feeling of wholeness.
a great way to put it. Yes.
Vivi?
Did you call me?
Yeah.
Okay. There's two times for me when I feel the completeness feeling. One is anytime I'm in a oneness experience, which can be anything from reading and prayer on spirit or Baba or God or Jesus or it can be walking and seeing a sunset, a oneness experience, beauty, or having a wonderful conversation with someone where I forget everything around me but the beauty of that other person. I have these moments of oneness. And I feel complete. Everything feels complete. Everything else falls away. The second time, the way I can enter into the oneness also, one method that is useful is saying thank you to the divine for whatever experiences I am having, whether I perceive them as positive or negative in my egoic state. Thanking for, I start with things that are clearly so-called good, that are good in my life. And when I start to do that, I start to enter into a feeling of abundance and oneness with the creator that gives, Baba that gives. And then when it's negative type experiences, I remember that I don't know their purpose per se in my limited understanding, but that I know they are growing me somehow. And when I do that, when I surrender and say thank you for those, which is very difficult practice, but it has helped me to enter into a oneness and a completeness feeling, even under strain or difficulty. So those are my two.
Beautifully said. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, we got
Radha?
I've always felt a real sense of, other than some amazing experiences of just feeling Baba's presence, that's got to be up at the top. But singing has always been, from the time I was a child. I sang hymns, I sang in the theater, and then when I had my children, I switched from focusing on being a professional actor to teaching and working with young children because I wanted to be home when my children got home from school instead of being in a rehearsal. And that evolved into this work that I did for 25 years of singing with children and doing musicals with children. And I always felt the whole time I was doing it that I was doing exactly what Baba wanted me to do. It really, every day I went to work, almost every day, I really felt Baba's presence. And those moments in the performances when the kindergartners they were amazing. They did amazing things. And to feel the love in the room, between the parents and these children, it was just so tangible, you know, to have that moment of, because everybody had such love and we were experiencing it as a community. And so whether it's at a Baba meeting or a Zoom meeting or a, you know, singing the names of God, which has been really powerful for me, those are all ways that I feel really connected.
Yeah, beautifully expressed. I mean, it's possible to fill, instead of just taking life on its own terms, the world on its own terms, we can cherry pick the best, the best of the world and
Exactly.
feel that wholeness. You know, because there are places you can go, you don't feel whole at all. But, you know, we're not just passive victims here, but that is beautiful. And kids, you know, there's a line from Tagore, the Indian poet. Every child brings with it the message that God will never forsake mankind. They bring this into the world, and if you tune into that, you know, you really feel you're in the best place in yourself. It's really, yeah. Let's see. Um, I see Jeff. We got Jeff there. Um, any chance you can read the subchapter on the complete story? Jeff Aspel? Well, I guess.
Sorry
Jeff,
about that.
there he is.
The complete story.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It happened, I'm sorry of the delay. The complete story. It happened when I was one of the 18 fortunate men who were Meher Baba's guests in India for 3 weeks in 1954. This was later described as the 3 incredible weeks. I had been following Baba since 1932 and had met him in 1934. In 1952, I spent quite a bit of time with him in America and had drawn very close to him inwardly. So this trip to India was the fulfillment of an almost impossible dream, to be with the divine beloved in his heartland on an intimate basis. I had always experienced him as the Christ, and sometimes in India especially, seeing him as the Christ was so startling and astounding that I could never find the words to describe how tremendous it was. One day, I was standing on Meherbat Hill, thinking of how wonderful it was that I happened to be one of the few men who were there as Baba's guests. I knew there must be thousands throughout the world who deserved to be there more than I did, but I decided to respond by doing what I could, work inwardly with Baba and whatever he was doing within me. And whatever he was doing within me, I found myself plunged into a much deeper level of consciousness, a more subjective level, and I found I was able to work within and consciously single out various sanskaric patterns and complexes that were impeding my spiritual progress, like debris littering the path within. I started to understand them more and more, and thereby was able to cast them off completely. It was like walking through a forest, pushing aside the undergrowth. I could see where I had misjudged some things and drawn the wrong conclusions about other things, and all those things create a sense of bondage in our consciousness. I was able to work with them, to see through them, discard them, and work toward Baba within.
Uh-oh. You
Closer
know,
to sorry,
uh,
I was sorry.
let's
I was
see.
I see where I was. I closed my eyes for a moment. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was able to work with them, to see through them, discard them, and work toward Baba within, closer to divine love and toward truth. And I was able to work quite well through clearing out the sanskaras. My consciousness was able to enter more expansive, freer levels of seeing and being within. Curiously enough, I did not realize that Baba was precipitating this whole experience within me. She did, without any ceremony or outward sign, just through inward working. He was not physically with me. He was in Meherzad. This went on for 2 or 3 days, and I made what I thought was very good progress when suddenly I came to an unceremonious halt. I encountered a subtle blockage within. At the physical level, I experienced it in the solar plexus area, and I could not do anything with it. I was unable to go any further, but I thought, well, I'm happy that I've gone as far as I have. That is a blessing in itself. It never occurred to me that Baba would do something about it. Then one day I was with Baba on Meherabad Hill along with several other people. Baba was about 10, 15 feet away from me when suddenly a great wave of divine fire, power, light, grace, beauty, when suddenly a great wave of divine fire, power, light, grace, beauty, and love from Baba swept right through me. It swept that blockage away, and a lot more besides. It all happened in a flash from the eternal. And this was not something outside of Baba, but was within the aura of his love being. It was within the aura of his love being. It was so powerful that I was stunned. I realized that nothing could stand in the way of Baba's irresistible force when he released it. I just stood there for a few seconds thinking, what happened? What happened? Sometimes when something astounding occurred around Baba, words from the Bible would come to my mind. And in this case, what came to my mind was a passage from the 23rd Psalm. He restoreth my soul. He restoreth my soul. This is what I felt. I became aware of my soul, and I experienced a sense of fulfillment and a sense of being complete within Baba's loving being. I experienced a sense of fulfillment and a sense of being completely within Baba's loving being. Within Baba's loving being. I felt I had instantly been restored to wholeness, to completeness. I experienced complete bliss, complete freedom, unlimitedness, and timelessness. I was totally blissful and utterly free. Nothing could be added. I had no need for anything else, no desires of any sort at all. This was truly a revelation. It was not that Baba made me complete. He just lifted some veils and revealed the fact that not only am I already complete, but we are all already complete. Baba just lifted some veils and revealed the fact that not only am I already complete, but we all are already complete. Simply by being with him in his radiation, in his atmosphere of spiritual freedom, we are sustained by his grace and we experience our completeness. Simply by being with him in his radiation, in his atmosphere of spiritual freedom, right here and now, we are sustained by Baba's grace and we experience our completeness. After a few moments, Baba and the group started walking down toward Lower Meherabad, where Baba was going to light a Duni fire. I kept saying to myself, Baba is the Duni fire, fire of divine love. This is one of the greatest experiences I ever had with Baba, and it is still functioning within.
Beautiful. And beautifully read with real feeling. You were feeling that as you went along, which is, you know, that we tried to get more out of Darwin, like where did it happen, what was it, and all of that. And I would say it was not at the heart center, but below, where which Asfandyar, one of the Prem Ashram boys, referred to as the Dell, and it's the doorway to the soul. And it's you know, when you were little kids in a swing going back and forth, and you'd feel that kind of thrill in your stomach. You know that's the Dell. It's the doorway to the soul, and that's where fear is located, because you're about to step into the beyond. You know, so there's a tremendous resistance. But Darwin said that when that swept through him, that wave of love and light and grace, he saw he was holding on to it as it was leaving. He actually was unconsciously holding on to that. But that the Dale is fortunately it's on the body, so it's something tangible that leads into the intangible, leads into the realm of the spirit. But anyway, okay.
Could you talk more about the Dell, please? Could you go into more depth, if you would, please?
Oh, geez.
The Dell,
Yep, please.
it's well, in asking Svander about this, there's the 7 chakras. One of them is the heart center, the heart chakra. But then behind that 7, there is this one gateway that leads into the soul. And I mean, Baba people have had usually at least one or a few experiences of that. You know, I mean, that kind of tells you Baba is divine, is God. But it's a place within us, even in our physical body. But then it's just you have to get through that into that realm. Now, what Asfandar would say is when he would at the doorway of that at the threshold of that doorway, you had to put your mind, lay your mind to go into that realm. And he called it meditation, but we finally, because he was, you know, speaking Farsi, but we hit on the word communion. Where he would go in there. When he would go in there, if he had any form that came to mind, everything had Baba's form. If form didn't come to consciousness, it was the divine ocean of love. So he was able to go through that door into that realm. But what to say about it is, you know, it's kind of beyond words, but it's the realm of the spirit, and that's what opened, that was in 54, that opened up in Darwin, so he was able to go and live from there without, and still being aware of this world. You know, it's like you got creation on one side and the divine on the other.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
And it's, you know, where Bob is heading us there. Okay.
Rich.
What that reminds me of is what I think Baba labeled as Salik. Darwin was clearly a Salik in that sense. He was aware of going through the process, even if it was just an inner awareness, even if he didn't experience any occult powers, if you might say. But I remember the first time really kind of opened Avatar of the Age Manifesting. I think that's where I first saw it. Bao Kulturi mentions, I think it's in that book first, that Baba had cut a hole, you know, in the door of the first plane so that we can go sort of move in and learn how to move in and out of that energy of the first plane and become aware and sensitive to it. To me, that's kind of like intuition in a way, but it's a feeling, you know, it's a feeling that's spiritual, but we're still in the gross world, you know, we're still there in the gross world. And then Baba describes it. I think that the first plane is you still have awareness of your gross and scars, but you're beginning to get that sense of the energy behind all that. But you know, this I want to repeat this because Jeff, I know you're a diehard fan, but this book by Darwin was such a gift. The first time I saw it and started actually reading it, I'm going, holy cow, no one has ever discussed this before. You know, it's like, you know, anyway, thanks,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah, it's very interesting that Darwin was the one to chosen somehow to write a book about this particular approach to Baba. You know, and yeah, there's no. You have to get bits and pieces of other writings to write to get something to get all of this, so to speak. There's somebody on the phone there.
Yeah, iPhone. Someone.
It's Janet.
Oh, okay, Janet. Okay.
Hi. Well, okay, I'm wanting to backtrack a little bit if we could. I mean, so when you were talking about the dill and you were talking about in relationship to the chakras, I didn't quite grasp. Could you say that again? I mean, I'm kind of quite familiar with the chakras, but I wasn't exactly sure what you were saying, Jeff.
Well, I mean, this is like more primary than the chakras. This is even closer to the divine, and it's like even the heart chakra. I mean, it divides life into me and other. I love you, you love me. That's the. It's still as magnificent as it is. It's still in the dual realm, and the one that and the Dell is the experience of oneness. Nothing is outside of it. So there's not me and other. It's all fused into a oneness. So that's the chakras all have a kind of a dual nature, but this gets beyond that. I don't know if that
that helps. That helps a lot, actually.
This stuff sounds good on paper, but getting the experience of it and then it makes sense, or it's known
Right.
through experience. But it's well worth knowing. I always found with Darwin, he would tell me things in the present, and it would take maybe decades, and I would say, "Oh wow, this is the thing that Darwin was talking about, the inner place." So it's good to hear about these things because we're being moved in that direction. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That helps.
Okay. Oh, let's see. Yeah, the Dell is actually, the way I would translate it, is the heart of hearts. That it gets, that's often how it's thought of. Okay, let's go. Oh, let's let's go on because we might be able to finish this chapter. What time is it? Oh, it's 11:11. That's a good number. Let's see. How about Sabine?
Okay. The continuous working of grace. This was just a little glimpse of Meher Baba's omnipotence and how his grace works at times. There was never any outward sign between us, but he knew that I knew what was going on, and I knew that he had done all of this. I find that even though he is out of the physical body, he still works in this mysterious way to sweep away one's sanskaras, and to give one a sense of merging with him in total bliss. So I know these things can still happen. There is no need for the wanting machine to keep running. As long as the wanting machine is going, we cannot experience our completeness. It is only when we stop the wanting machine that we stop repudiating the fact that we are already complete. This completeness was revealed to me that day, along with the realization that nothing can be added because one experiences total bliss. So there's no need to desire to be anything or to have anything. And there's no room left to think of oneself as being advanced or not advanced or anything of that sort, because everyone is complete. Shall I go on?
Yeah, wait a second there. One thing though is also possible to have that experience without bliss. And that's what the mandali had. They had that experience of wholeness and and wholeness and completeness in the midst of incredible suffering. And that was kind of because they were shoulder to shoulder with Baba, and Baba was in infinite suffering, and they were in a state similar to him. So it doesn't even, bliss is not necessarily a sign. Sometimes it can be, it doesn't have to be bliss. It can be even just a neutral feeling of experience of oneness. I'm just mentioning that. So yeah, so Sabine, go on. Um, this sentence is an incredible sentence. Go ahead.
Spiritual advancement. As a result of Mea Baba's love gift of restoring my soul to completeness, wherein I was, through his divine grace, blissfully relieved of the burdens of wanting or desiring anything at all, having everything in his love, I came to see that the concept of spiritual advancement is really a misnomer that keeps one's consciousness involved in the illusion of egoic acquisition, however refined. This concept is predicated on and supported by our sense of incompleteness, which fosters our inclination to gain or achieve something that we think we do not already have. It binds our consciousness to a sense of future fulfillment, thus making us feel dependent on time, which is itself a creation of Maya. There is a difference between spiritual advancement and liberation from the Mayavic illusion that bind us to wanting or desiring, even wanting or desiring spiritual states of consciousness in order to experience fulfillment. Eventually, we will have to face and be blissfully satisfied with our completeness. If we can stop the wanting machine and work in the forest of our sanskaras, shedding the light of truth on them, trying to understand and then dispose of them, with Baba's help, we will gain momentum and move closer toward God, toward Baba within, toward truth. And we will begin to experience our own completeness.
Beautiful. Wow. Anything to say to that? Jeff.
Jeff, this question I've been dealing with for a long time. So Darwin is telling us that we're complete. Darwin is telling us, don't worry about this illusion of spiritual advancement. You're complete. You're complete. Stop striving. You are enough. You really are enough. So my question is, I look at my limitations, I look at my weaknesses, I look at my flaws, and I don't feel complete. I feel these are things that are related to the knots of the sanskaras. So I'm trying to pose the question, but I guess what I'm coming out of my little mind and heart is, if I'm complete, what's this thing I'm talking about with flaws and trying to improve my weaknesses and my limitations? How do you,
Mm-hmm.
I even hesitate to say, how do you reconcile it, but how do you work with that, Jeff?
Well, see, I would say if you can accept your strengths and weaknesses, then you're complete. But if you think, oh, well, I'm not going to be complete until I get over this hang up, then you're incomplete. It's a funny sort of a thing. In other words, I have found in my own life that I was closer with Baba. Self-acceptance was closer than self-improvement. Self-improvement is endless. And I remember when I was young there and at Marizad, and Mara was talking about, now I'm talking about how naive I was. Mara was talking about how when she went up on Seclusion Hill with Baba, she had a fear of heights. And so she had to crawl on her hands and knees when she got up to the summit. But she didn't have a problem with that. Now I thought, gee, I should go and join some outward bound program and get over the fear of heights. You know, that didn't affect her. And she accepted that as a limitation, but it wasn't like she was going to be incomplete until she got over a fear of heights. She's able to live with that. I mean, I was young, but I mean, I made that, I made that observation. But in other words, if you think, oh my God, I've got all this problem and that problem in myself, it will, then you're always going to feel incomplete. And oddly enough, when you accept yourself, it's a better place to tackle your hangups. And you can have enjoyment in kind of working with your hangups rather than, oh, I'm incomplete. I didn't get through it. You know what I mean? So I don't know if this makes sense, but an interesting thing about self-acceptance is your being relaxes so that more love can come through you. Like if I want to be a certain way, and I'm striving to get over fear, then there's a tension between where I am and where I want to be. And that tension is across my heart and it impedes the flow of love. That tension and all this thing, I want to be somewhere else than where I am, that creates a tension and it blocks the flow of love. So self-acceptance actually allows more love to flow through, and you actually turn out to be better than when you're kind of stressed out about needing to improve yourself. I mean, I don't know if that rings a bell.
It rings 1,000 bells.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. Someone can love you, completely with all your hang-ups. They can do it, so you can do it. That's what I'm saying. Anyway. Okay, go ahead.
Rich.
That's a really, really good point, Jeff. That Asbel, that is, I've dealt with the same stuff for a long time. And part of me didn't realize that I was trying to hold on and try to finish up the ego project, but let go. And it's like, it's too confusing, And that's really, of course, what Darwin's book is about. But I was listening to something, I was really in the middle of what the conflict you're talking about, Jeff. I was really in the middle of that. And I was listening to something on YouTube. And this guy, I will only say that it's Meher Cephas or something, but he was saying something a little foreign to me. He was saying that you've done all the winding. Now you're a human being. You have all these sanskaras, da da da. And now, as a Baba lover, it's time for the unwinding. And it did. It struck a bell with me that, oh my God, that's it. I got to quit. Stop trying to wind this thing up more and more. It's not going to work. Like you said, Jeff, it's not going to ever work. So anyway, the next thing I wanted to make a point. I watched, I think it was a week ago, it was almost a women singing tribute to Michelle. You know, Jeff, you said she's in hospice, and it was so beautiful. It was an hour of these women each singing a song, and they were just, the love they poured upon her was incredible. Just incredible. It really touched me. It really touched me.
Yeah. Thank you, Rich. Yeah. Okay.
Dini?
I wanted to say that I really felt what you said, Jeff, about the body relaxing when you accept and yourself. And what I wanted to say is, to see if I can articulate it. What I notice most is when I'm feeling that I'm not enough, or that I haven't made it to some point, or why am I this way, all those things. There is an uncomfortable feeling within. There's a vacuous, aching, sad, struggle feeling, versus when you're in self-acceptance. When you accept that you have, there's a peace comes over. And one of the ways I've been able to do that again is to release it and remember how Baba feels about me. I may not be able to get to a point where I'm accepting of those things unless I put it through to that Baba has made me this way. I am in this walking existence with this life, with these sanskaras for a reason. I've chosen to be here in this way to learn what I have to learn. And so I'm going to accept where I am, and then everything releases, like you're saying. I just wanted to mention that.
Beautifully said. Yeah. And one thing that has helped me is that, and I've said this a number of times, that my weaknesses and hang-ups and my selfishness and the way I've hurt people over the years Baba has transmuted that into empathy for others. So a lot of these things that you want to change, they have positive value in making you more of an empathetic person. If you cleared all these things up in yourself, you might not be that empathetic. There's a Zen line: no fish lives in pure water. Oh, I'm getting a call. Go ahead.
Or no, there's that no mud, no lotus, right? Too, like no mud, no lotus.
Patty?
Yes, I just wanted to kind of piggyback a little bit up on what you were saying, Deneen. How I feel about it is expansive in self-acceptance and contracted when I'm in judgment. Yeah. And those two.
That's it. Yes.
I mean, I was listening to you say that, and that's exactly how I was feeling. When I'm not in self-acceptance, I'm so contracted, and it's just nothing moves. There's no energy flowing. My heart is closing. And when I'm in acceptance.
Are we having a moment of silence here? Or?
No. Am I? Okay. But it's just Jeff was right on with that. And I was just piggybacking on you because it's so affirming when you can get to that. And believe me, we all have it, and I love that you say, look at how Baba loves me or loves you. You know what I mean? That kind of being able to imagine or to feel that then brings you into a much, much more expansive space. So, Jai Baba, everyone.
Jai
Yeah.
Baba.
Miriam?
Yeah.
Oh, someone, they were having some late arrivals, so I had to slip out. Let's see. You know, there was
Janet has
something.
raised. Janet?
Yeah, Janet, good.
Just, I'm asking for a reminder from you, Jeff. You were saying about something about not perfecting ourselves, but something else, accepting ourselves. Is that what you said? Rather than trying to perfect ourselves, make it our determination to accept ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we are naturally, I mean, there's self-improvement, and we are naturally going to improve. We don't have to force ourselves to improve. In other words, you know, people that had tempers years ago, you meet them now, they're more mellow. They've moved out of that. I mean, this is not to mean to become complacent. I don't think the Baba people are going to, with Baba inspiring them, are going to become complacent and accept, you know, a kind of low-level life in themselves, you know. But self-compassion and self-acceptance are valuable elements, I would say.
Thank you.
Go for it, Tony. Yeah.
Yeah, just I guess a personal application of some of this. Astrologically, I have 1,000,000 planets in my 10th house, which translates into a great drive to achieve and to achieve things, great things, important things. And yet my chart also says that's the kind of thing I have to take the focus off of and go just opposite to my spiritual base. And it seems paradoxical and impossible, and I've struggled with this for decades. But recently, and particularly, I have a project that I feel is my mission, you know. And it occurred to me in the past week, really, that I should just have fun, play, and write the damn thing. Not to achieve something, not to accomplish something, not to do a big 10th house, look at this, but just for the joy and pleasure of, and then if Baba wants it to go anywhere, he'll take it where he wants it to go. Yeah. So another kind of detached, kind of finally getting in there a little bit.
Yeah, beautiful, really. Yeah, that's when it comes from that, it's a joy, and you become a vehicle. And yeah, so you know, I thought I would read this maybe before a few moments of silence. It's getting kind of late, and just to say again that I'm thinking of taking the next 2 Sundays off because it's New Year's, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So we'll pick up after the New Year, the first Sunday after the New Year. So here's one this is Marianne Williamson, who is very connected with the Course in Miracles. And I read this in the Arti, but I think it bears reading again. She writes, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we consciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others." just have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba.
Jeff, what about all of us Hindus who don't celebrate Christmas Eve? You know?
Yeah, well, you know, they got plenty of celebrations for one thing or another. They got more holidays than
Okay, you're right.
than we have work days. No, Goer, is there anything that occurs to you in regard to this wholeness and lack of wholeness? Anything that
I always feel whole when I'm with Baba, obviously. So if I'm, let's say, I mean, I've heard all of you say so many beautiful things, and I feel in sync with a lot of them. So whether it's, being with children, whether it's just walking and enjoying a beautiful sunset, whether it's just, I think in the end, it's just being with Baba, knowing that Baba is with you when you are going through all these experiences. And just that awareness, just that knowledge brings me into a very complete sense of being. That's all I can say.
beautiful? Yeah, I think that it's it's when these other things intervene that assume importance independent of Baba that we lose our wholeness. No, thank you. I mean, it's beautiful how you people speak about your experience. I mean, it's really, it's, yeah. So, anyway, anything else that comes up? Well, you all have a very nice Christmas and New Year's. Enjoy yourself and make sure Baba's entertained in what you do. That amplifies it in that direction. Yeah.
You as well, Jeff. You as well.
Ah, okay. See you. Much, much love.
That's
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jeff.
Good care, Jeff.
Thank you. Jai Baba to all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Baba.
Avatar, Meher Baba,
Jai
Ki
Baba,
Ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Nazreen.
Avatar,
Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Baba.
God
Anita,
bless you all. I'm very attached.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you,
2 weeks.
everyone.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer, nice to see you. And
Thanks, Jeff.
yeah.
Good to be here. Thank you, everyone.
So really have
Lots
an
of love.
enjoyable holiday. Really. So,
Thank you, Jeff.
and you're out there somewhere and yeah. Payam there somewhere. Meth. Yeah. Hey, Payam. Good to see you.
Jai Baba.
Yeah. Anthony, he was there earlier somewhere. Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Everybody gets bigger as as every,
Yeah. An anomaly, huh?
yeah. Great. Well,
Great.
I'm gonna.
Jeff, say hello to Nan. Merry Christmas to Nan.
Okay, Jai Baba. Thank you.